mantra has been that you got to change and get with the times. You know, what's the old saying? If you're not changing, you're getting left behind. You know, that kind of seems to be the whole. Change is the one inevitable in life. You know, the one constant in life is change. And I think change in a lot of ways, it scares a lot of us. Many of us, change is one of those things that it freaks us out, whether it's change in change in jobs and it just paralyzes us. It may be change in, relationships, change in our health, maybe a change in our finances, a change in, a change in living arrangements, kids that are moving out or things that are changing. Just change is one of those things that I think it scares so many of us. And the thing is that there are some people that handle it better than others. Some people do handle change better than others do. But it's the one constant in life is that things are going to change. If you like them the way they are, yeah, too bad, because it's going to change. Okay. And I was reading, I actually read an article, and this was a while back, but it always kind of come back to it. It was a study. It was an article. It was kind of about a study, and it was based upon kids and the kind of, I guess, home life, you want to call it, whatever. But that was that kids who lived in homes where there were definite rules and guidelines, and it was clearly laid out, and those boundaries were kept. And it was a comparison between them and kids who lived in homes to where, the boundaries just kind of, yes, sometimes this is wrong, sometimes it's not. It wasn't really clearly laid out. And, much more kind of free range parenting. Is that what we would call it? I think, just kind of let them, we'll figure it out. What they found, though, is that in this study, the kids who were raised in homes where the boundaries were clearly laid out, where they stayed the same, were happier than the kids that weren't. Because the ones that were living in homes where it's kind of like I said, that free range, the boundaries kind of change and move, they were more prone to anxiety. They were more prone to self-doubt. In a lot of ways, they were more prone to those things. And that was one of the common denominators. And we see this, you see it in divorced families, don't we? One set of rules at mom's house and one set of rules at dad's house. And as a result, then we're like, I don't know why the kids keep acting up. But it's because they don't really know where the lines are. Foster kids go through this a whole awful lot. Kids that have been in a foster care system or maybe that are adopted, they do that a lot because they go from one place. It's a change of not only, different kind of rules sometimes, but different locations, sometimes different morals, and standards, and all of that changes. And as a result, they're prone to anxiety. They're prone to acting out, rebellion. We see that a lot. And I'm sure you're like, okay, that's a great study, but what in the world does that have to do with Jesus? Well, we're going to get to that here in just a second. But we have been, for those of you that have been here before, you know that we have been in a series for the last 2 months. And what we have been doing is we have been studying, learning, and exploring the character, the nature, even the attributes of God, who He is. And we've talked about, the God that we are looking for. And sometimes we say, I'm looking for this kind of God, when the fact is that really deep down in our spirit, we're looking for the kind of God that we find in the Bible. But what are the nature and the attributes of God? What we've learned so far is that we know that God is omniscient. Okay? Now, omniscient means that He knows all things. There is nothing that He does not know, past, present, or future. We know that He is omnipotent, meaning He is all-powerful. Okay? Omnipotent, He is all-powerful. He is the ultimate authority in all things. He is the ultimate authority over all things. We have learned that He is omnipresent, meaning that what? He's in all places at all times. He's eternal. always has been, always will be. There will never be a time when God will cease to exist. There was never a time when he did not exist. He is eternal. We know that he is sovereign. Like I said, always in control. There is nothing that he is not the authority over, nothing that he is not the authority in. We know that he is emotional. Now, we say emotional, we see that as a bad thing, but the fact is that it just means that God feels. Okay, he does just like us. The difference is that our emotions so many times we do them wrong. Okay, we do our emotions wrong. God never does. His emotions are perfect, but he does. That means that he shares in our joy. It also means that he joins us in our grief. He has emotions. We know that God is a refuge. He's a safe place. He is a place where we are protected. We know that God is righteous. We know that he always does the right thing, the right way, at the right time, for the right reasons, always. Okay? Every single time. We know that he is gracious. He doesn't give us what we deserve. Instead, he gives us what we do not deserve. And so, in the same way, we know that God is committed. Okay, he's committed to us that in the fact that there is never a promise that God has made that he will not keep. Any promise that he makes, he's going to keep. We know that God is a guide in the fact that he is. I'm sorry, hold on. It never fails. I'm about done with technology. Anybody else? Anybody? See, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. I don't think somebody wants you to hear what we have today. If I'm taking a guess. We know that God is a guide, that he wants to guide us, that he wants to lead us, and he promises to take us to the right place at the right, in the right way at the right time. We know that God is generous in the fact that he is giving. And we talk about all you have to do is look at the fact that he sent his son to die on the cross for us. But here's what I want you to, if you have not been here for this series, you picked the right one. If you've been here for this series and you haven't learned anything, that's okay, because I need you to tune back in. Because I'm just going to say this as clear as I can. If there is nothing else that you get from the last 2 months except for today, make it this one. The last character, nature, the attribute of God is his immutability. Okay? Now, what does it mean that God is immutable? It means that God is unchangeable. It means that God is unchanging. If there is nothing else that you take from this, please understand, because this is more important than you know. I know we're like, oh, but okay, whatever. I don't know about that. No. Malachi 3, verse 6 says, I, the Lord, do not change. And I'm going to tell you, no matter how much society says that God needs to change, no matter how much society says that Christianity needs to come into the 21st century, that God somehow needs to evolve, that God needs to catch up with what's going on in the world, I'm going to tell you, no. No. You may not think that you are looking for a God who does not change and will not change. But I'll tell you what, if you really, really, really spend some time thinking about it, that's exactly who you are looking for. You are looking for a God that does not and cannot change. And the reason, think about just the attributes that we just talked about, okay? I know that we get bombarded all the time with the fact that everything is what? It's new and improved, right? Everything's new and improved. Everything is bigger, better, faster, shinier, whatever it is. And I get, okay, you can make pancakes that are fluffier. You can make a detergent that cleans better. You can make cars. that are more fuel efficient. I get it. We can do all of that. But the thing is that when you're talking about the God of the Bible, the attributes that we have talked about, any change will be a change for the worse. Any change will be a change for the worse. If God is all-knowing, any change makes him less than all-knowing. If he is all-powerful, any change means that he is one of the most powerful. If we say that he is eternal, we say that he's mostly eternal. It's any change that you make, think about it. We say that God is committed. Well, if you're going to change that, if there's any changing, then I guess we can just say he's mostly dependable. That's not the God I'm looking for. It's not the God you are looking for. Your soul is looking for a God who is completely consistent and unchanging in his character, in his nature, in his personality. That is what you are looking for. Because the thing is, you can't think about perfect. Can you improve perfect? No. So if you change perfect, the only thing that you can do is make it less than perfect. And so the fact that God is immutable, that he does not change, that he is unchangeable, is good news. Now, I'll be honest. It may be bad news too, depending on how you look at things. Here's why it is good news. It's good news because I want you to understand there's never a time when God is going to need to take a breather. Okay? God didn't take a play off. He doesn't need to rest. He doesn't need to catch up. He doesn't need to do any of that. Okay? There is never a time that God is not right where you need him any given time. There's never that. There is never going to be a time when God is not in absolute control. There will never be a time when God does not care about your situation or your circumstance. There will never be a time when God is not aware of what is going on in your life, your circumstance, your situation. There will never be a time that he is not generous. There will never be a time that he is not giving, that he is not merciful, that he is not sovereign. None of that will ever change, and that is good news. Why? Because we know who he is, we know what he is. Now, the problem is that sometimes what that also means is, well, in fact, you guys know who Toby Keith is, right? Okay. Toby Keith sings a song, not How Do You Like Me Now? That was good. No. Toby Keith had the song that he used singing. I'm trying to remember exactly. I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. Okay? And here's the whole point behind that song, is that he's talking about those of us that we've aged. And so therefore we hit our prime and now it's all downhill from there. Right? That's what it is. That's the whole point of the song. And we all go through it. We really do. What I think you need to understand, that's not how it is with God. There was never a time when God was in his prime. Okay? He wasn't at his best at creation. It wasn't like he was just really peak game during the flood and the Exodus. It's not like he was rocking it in the fiery furnace and in the lion's den, but not so much, before and after. God did not peak at the resurrection of Jesus. He is the same all the way throughout. So there's never a time when he was in his prime, which means there's never a time that he has now slipped from that moment. Now, that is the good news, but this is where it can also be the bad news, because that also means that God has not mellowed in the way that he looks at things over time. Okay? His standards have not changed. His laws have not changed. His hatred of sin, any sin, has not lessened. Okay, he has not mellowed over time. He is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. He does not change. But here's the thing that we say that the good news is that all of these characters traits stay the same. And then they're like, it may be bad news, though, that he hasn't changed the way that he looks at sin. But really, the bad news is good news. The bad news really is good news. You know why? We know where we stand. We know where we stand. When we begin to talk about God and his hatred of sin, when we talk about his laws, when we talk about his standards, what we know is that if his omnipotence, his omniscience, his omnipresence, if his sovereignty, his grace, his mercy, his generosity, if none of that has changed, if we know that his hatred, his hatred of sin, his laws and his standards have not changed, what we also know is neither has the plan of salvation. That the same offer for us to be saved and redeemed through the sacrificial death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ is the same thing that is promised to us today. See, I mean, we sit here and we look at the Bible, and what I want you to understand is that the same God that is revealed to us in here, Old Testament-wise, even New Testament-wise, is the same God that is here with us today. That's Hebrews tells us that Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. God the same yesterday, today, and forever. And the thing is that when we know that his attributes have not changed, when we know that his standards have not changed, what we also know is that his promises and his assurances have not changed either. Which means that when John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world, he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life," he meant it just as much the day that he said it in the first century as he does today and as he did before. When Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life," it is no less true today than it was the day that he said it. When Jesus stood in the upper room and he told the disciples that that God would send the Holy Spirit, a counselor, the comforter, to be with them, to guide them, to lead them, to renew all of this. When he said that, it was not for a limited time engagement. Okay? It is just as true today as it was that day in the upper room. None of that has changed. None of the promises, none of the assurances, every single thing that we read in here is the same. And here's the deal. This is where this is one of the best things ever. God hasn't changed. His nature hasn't changed. His standards, his laws have not changed. His promises and his assurances have not changed. And also, what he asks of us has not changed. Okay? What does he want from you and me? What does he call us to when we say that we want to be believers? I was reading Genesis chapter 5. There is a story of a man, he's not mentioned very much. He lived for 365 years when everybody else was living 6 and 7 and 8 and 900 years. Yet his tombstone, if he'd had one of the greatest epitaphs I could ever think of. Genesis 5, verse 4, when it says that Enoch walked with the Lord and then was no more. Enoch walked with the Lord and then was no more. The Lord took him home. I cannot think of any greater words that I would love to have on my headstone than he walked with God until he took him home. Nothing miraculous. I'm not saying I'm going to ascend. I'm not going to, no. He walked with God until he took him home. I can't think of anything better. And here's the deal. If you're here today as a Christian, that's what we know, is that there will be a day when God will take you home. It's going to happen either when we pass away or it's going to happen at the rapture, but God's going to take us home. And can you think of any better words to be there than to say that you walked with God until he called you home? Because that's what he wants from us. In Micah 6, verse 8, if you want to know what God calls us to, he wants us to love him, to trust him, and to walk with him. This is Micah 6:8. He has showed you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? This is to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Nothing's changed. Adam and Eve walked with God in the Garden of Eden. Abraham walked with God. He trusted God. It was credited to him as righteousness. Moses walked with God. David, Daniel walked with the Lord. The disciples who would become the apostles walked with the Lord. What do we even call it? We call it our what? Our walk of faith. Because we understand that. We realize it. That really is that what God says is, here's what I want from you. I want you to trust me. I want you to love me. I want you to take my hand and walk with me. That's what he asks of us. And here's the amazing news in that. A lot of us, I don't know about you, a lot of us, I know me, don't feel like we really bring anything to the table when it comes to serving the Lord. I mean, I was trying to, I've read through the Bible a few times, and never ever have I found an individual who stood up when asked anything about serving and said, "Oh, send me! I got everything you need. I'm the one." Is there? Every one of them, I'm not worthy. I got nothing to bring. I got nothing to offer. And I think it's a lot of us. We really don't think that we have what's needed. We don't think that we've got anything to offer. And we're kind of like, I don't know what I can do when it comes to serving the Lord. And I'm telling you that what God says is, whoa, hold on. Before you get your day planner out, before you get all of this laid out of what you're going to do, here's what I want from you. I want you to trust me. I want you to love me. And then just walk with me. Every day. Now, is that walk going to be easy? No. It's going to be uphill. It's going to be rocky. There's going to be a lot of that. But this to me is where all of the things that we have been talking about make all the difference in the world. Because what we've learned over the last 2 months is that the God of this Bible who says, "Love me, trust me, walk alongside me," is also the all-powerful, all-knowing, always present creator God of the universe. He spoke it into existence. There is nothing that this God has not already seen and overcome. The one who calls us to walk with him says, "I will be a refuge for you whenever you need it." The God who calls us to walk with him says, "I will guide you where you need to go, and I will give you the strength when the road gets rocky." The God who calls us to walk with him says, "I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. I will never turn my back on you. Just trust me, love me, and walk with me." That's what he wants from us. That's what he calls us to. That's when we start talking about this walk. Guys, there's not great things that you need to do or accomplish. And this comes back to our point of change. I sometimes sit around and talk to the boys, and I am amazed at the things that have changed in just a short period of time. I mean, when Joshua was born, there were no iPhones. Today, they're everywhere. okay? When Joshua was born, there was no Facebook. And now you can't get away from it. When Jackson was born, Holland existed. Holland no longer exists. It's now the Netherlands. Did you know that? I mean, you look at the map, you go look at a globe, they're changing all the time because we've got boundaries and we have got, borders and nations that are changing, names that are changing, alliances all the way throughout there. You go in and, science books are just about outdated by the time that they get them off of the printing press. There's something else because we've discovered a new star, we've discovered a new galaxy somewhere. You pull a computer out of the box and it's already obsolete. Technology is just moving so fast. And that seems to be the world that we are in. And I think that it breeds anxiety in us. And it brings doubt and it breeds worry within us because it just seems like every time we get up and it's a new world and it's a new situation and this changed and that changed. And I'm going to say, I don't know what it is that you're going through right now. I really don't. I don't know what change is looming on the horizon for you. I don't know what change you are in the middle of. I don't know what change it is that hasn't even started, but that you're scared to death may happen. I know we all have that. But here's the thing that I want you to understand is that you need to be able to look at and say, you know what? My job may change, but my God never does. My relationships may change, but my God never does. My health may change, but my God never does. My income may change, but my God never does. My circumstance, my situation, my struggle, it may change, but God never does. Can you find anything more comforting and more encouraging than that thought? Because no matter where you go, no matter what you do, no matter what you face, the God who spoke the universe into existence said, I'm there with you. Just walk with me. Trust me. I'll never leave you. I will never forsake you. I will never turn my back on you. I will be here to protect you, to watch over you, to guide you, to strengthen you every step of the way. Just trust.